year, the conference is Future Ready Africa, connecting ideas, creating value. What is the future of Africa? What are we supposed to be preparing ourselves for? I'll share with you, firstly, before I go on to introduce my panel. Population for Africa is bound to double by year 2050. And what's the opportunity that is there? The youthful demographic, which will be catalyst to the growth of the economy, providing source for innovation, labor, and skill. Right. What goes with that? Huge population, urbanization, the road to urban migration, the natural growth, and as we progress, let's take note, 1 billion people are going to provide additional population to the current urban centers. This is across Africa, which will give birth to the creation of the mega cities. What are we talking about? Let's look at Harare, our current situation. Harare as it is, but come here 2025, it will not be the same. You know, it will be unavoidable to amalgamate your Norton, Chitungwiza, Mazoe, Beatrice, even including Marondera. If we project by the current level of growth, 25 years from now, that will be the new Harare. So the development of new mega cities is going to be happening. It's inevitable. Right. We go on. What follows after that? The demand for housing, power, water, waste management in its various forms, the liquid waste, the solid waste, the need for efficient management is going to arise. So that's a serious opportunity as well that we have to look at. We currently have a deficit in infrastructure that we need to catch up. That is a fact. World Bank opined that 666 million have no access to electricity as we speak. 2.1 billion lack drinking water. 2.4 billion, they lack safe sanitation. And 1 billion live more than 2 kilometers from an all-season road. And a third of the global population remains digitally unconnected. Talk about a global crisis. And it's a crisis that has to be solved. And in the process of solving it, what mess are we creating? Now, to add to these crises, while we need more buildings for the accommodation and everything else, it is disturbing to note that the built environment is in charge of 40% of global greenhouse gas emissions, which inadvertently contribute towards climate change. So we need houses, and houses, they come from the environment. We have to destroy the environment for us to provide accommodation. We are in a catch-22 situation. We are in a difficult situation. How do we balance this out? Let's talk about Africa climate vulnerabilities. Now, despite Africa contributing less than 4% of the global greenhouse gas emissions, 35 to 50 countries are at serious risk. Let's even talk about Zimbabwe, our own Zimbabwe. Those of my generation, they'll know that in the 80s, 90s, we never used to, the frequency of the cyclones was never there. But what are we experiencing now? Let's reflect on what happened. Cyclone Idai. Houses were destroyed, roads were destroyed. All that is infrastructure. So, much as we may not be contributing, but the need for us to start talking about climate adaptation and mitigation, it is crucial, it is important. We can't avoid it. We ought to have climate resilient infrastructure. And that is what is supposed to be developed. While we need to develop infrastructure, the future is calling for sustainable infrastructure development, which is a key to smarter investment in Africa. This happens to be our discussion for today. Ladies and gentlemen, myself and my team will be sharing with you on sustainable infrastructure development, the key to smarter investment in Africa. And to help me effectively deal with that task at hand, I have a team of experts, professionals in their own fields, who are going to assist me. The first one will be Madam Patience Patongamoyo, who is a licensee and MD for Seeff Properties and Zimbabwe and Mozambique. Women power, girl power, running 2 countries. She is a registered and practicing strategian in Valor and currently working on a doctorate in business administration. A round of applause welcoming Madam Patience. We also have counsel, a seasoned investment lawyer and a partner at MCM Legal Practitioners. This is Vengai Madzima. You can do better. You can do better. Remember, you need these services when you do something wrong. We have a veteran in the construction industry, the CEO for CIFOZ, which is Construction Industry Federation of Zimbabwe, Mr. Martin Chingaira. He's over there. Last but not least, we have a project manager with Sunway City, and this is Simpson Biri. As he walks, another round of applause for him. To break the ice for today's presentation on sustainable infrastructure will be our Madam Patience. You know, ladies first. The last panel, we had 1 gentleman. Now we have done the reverse. We have 1 lady. And Madam Patience will give us some deeper insights into our overall discussion.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome this afternoon. Like Mr. Juru has said, it's a very difficult time to be presenting after everybody has had lunch. I want to talk just about the brief of sustainable infrastructure development, the key to investments in Africa. Oh, good, thank you. Okay, so Africa has significant infrastructure deficit. I think we all know that there are a lot of opportunities and that are available, and it's very important that instead of looking at the challenges that we have as Africa, we try and explore the opportunities. In Zimbabwe, our government has worked positively with the NDS-1 and the Vision 2020 to try and expand and restore key infrastructure. There's still a lot that can be done by us, the private sector, so we need to be able to be working together with the government to be able to achieve this. And today we'll just talk about just the brief, and then we'll dig deeper into the detail as we progress. Now, what is sustainable infrastructure development? It's an approach that meets the need of the present while conserving resources for the future, for our generations. I think when you heard me speaking, I'm always talking about our kids, our generations. We seem to have forgotten that Tinema Zukuru, we've got our kids that need to be looked after by us. And the importance of this lies in encouraging smarter resource use and gradually transforming technology to achieve harmony amongst the environmental and economic and social political stability. Now, the main motives for sustainable development include promoting stable economic growth to eradicate poverty, conserving natural resources for universal access to essential services, fostering social progress, and equally through inclusive opportunities and protecting the environment to combat climate change and preserve ecosystem. We are the reasons for climate change, and when we talk of sustainability, this is one major thing that we are talking of. Now, the importance of sustainable infrastructure, there are 4 major motives for sustainable development, and these are stable economic growth, conservation of natural resources, social progress and equality, and obviously the environmental protection, which most of us have seemed to have forgotten about. And I'm hoping we will discuss deeper in this because we've all totally forgotten about protecting the environment. Everybody's living for today. The objectives of achieving sustainable development are restricting unnecessary human activities, effective urbanization of technical development, and input utilization should be discouraged. Minimizing pollution and encouraging afforestation, proper planning and sensible use of natural resources, and the rate of consumption of resources must be kept in check. I think we have a big witness there. We are mining like there's no tomorrow. I hope we can talk about this at a later stage. The keys to a smarter investment in Africa. The new competition, collaboration. I know a lot of people always say, no, that's my competitor, but collaboration is now the new competition. It's essential for driving smarter investments in Africa, addressing unique challenges while minimizing growth of opportunities. By fostering partnerships among governments, private sector, entities, and local authorities, diverse stakeholders, banks, developers, contractors, pension funds, estate agents, we can promote and enhance resource sharing, integrate diverse expertise, and promote innovative solutions tailored to our local needs. I think the government has been talking about this quite a lot. So in other words, they are quite welcome to this particular engagement where we all come together like what we are doing now to foster these collaborative efforts so that we all benefit in the future. Collaborative efforts can also shape supportive policy frameworks, boosting transparency, investor confidence, and by addressing cross-border challenges through regional initiatives, collaboration, and it also unlocks sustainable development and long-term economic growth across the continent. You know, it's very difficult to move things from one country to another, and yet we had the railway that was there, that we destroyed, and we can't build a new one. So these are collaborative issues that we will be talking about today and the opportunities that are available. Incentives as a key to smarter investments. It's very important that the governments also offer incentives. So incentives for sustainable development are vital for attracting smarter investments in Africa. Financial incentives, also like tax breaks and subsidies, can make substantial projects more appealing, while streamlined regulations enhance investment confidence. Access to innovative financing models, such as green bonds, REITs. We've seen a lot of REITs in Zimbabwe of late, although there's room for much more, you know, things that we also control ourselves. It also enables capital flow into sustainable initiatives. Capacity building efforts equip local communities with the necessary skills leading to successful projects, creating a market for sustainable products through public procurement can also stimulate demand, driving further investment. Education. You know, without education, we don't go anywhere as a nation. But it's very, as Zimbabwe, it's very saddening to note that all the effort we put towards our own education is drained away by other nations. So education is crucial for driving smarter investments in Africa by equipping individuals with skills needed for sustainable practices and innovation. A well-educated workforce attracts local and foreign investments, particularly in sectors like renewable energy and technology. We've actually seen a brain drain, whereas we're supposed to be attracting people, we are being drained to go outside. By also fostering entrepreneurship and financial literacy, education empowers young innovators to create sustainable businesses. And also, ultimately, education empowers all communities to engage decision-making, ensuring investments align with their needs. By prioritizing education, Africa can lay the foundation for sustainable and economic growth. Local authority engagement as a key to smarter investments in Africa. I think as Zimbabwe, this is where our biggest challenge has been with our local authorities. I think all the problems that we realtors, people in the property industry talk about, all have to do with our local authorities. And unfortunately, this time we haven't seen any representation, but these are always the biggest challenge that we have. So local authority engagement is vital for driving a smarter investment in Africa, but it often faces significant challenge. The bureaucratic barriers can slow decision-making, deterring potential investors. Additionally, many local authorities lack the capacity and resources needed to effectively manage sustainable development projects. I think right now, as we have entered the development space, we notice that the local authorities themselves are quite broke. So when you get a development permit, they want you to put up a road, which in essence they are supposed to be putting. So apart from putting the roads in my development, I'm being forced to put up a road. So what then it does is it then just pushes the property prices to the consumer. So people talk about why property prices are very high in Zimbabwe. Yes, there is a shortage. I mean, we spoke of 1.2 million, but also those are some of the drivers that drive the property prices, because we are being forced to do certain things that the local authorities are supposed to be doing. I was in Botswana, and last week, the Botswana Stock of Exchange did a presentation where they have initiatives to try and assist the local authorities to fundraise, so that they fundraise and they put in the money into the investment, and then obviously there is a way that they can recover their monies. I think as Zimbabwe, we also need to be looking at how these local authorities can be resourced, because the end thing is that they are pushing all the costs, all the cost and everything onto the end user, which is the consumer. The other one is lack of transparency breeds mistrust, while disconnection from communities leads to investment that may not meet the local needs. Yesterday, we were talking of a sporting field being converted into bars, clubs, and everything. So these are the challenges that we are also having. Moreover, inadequate feedback mechanisms prevent local authorities from gaining crucial insights. Planning, a key to smarter investments. Without planning, we don't go anywhere. So we need to look at effective planning as vital for attracting smarter investments in Africa, but it often falls short. Many regions lack a cohesive strategic vision, leading to fragmented efforts that deter investors. I think one of the challenges that I personally have noted is that when politicians come in place, they're 5-year term. So instead of addressing the issues that we have that are long-term, everybody's looking at addressing their immediate needs. I'm not sure how we can have policy frameworks that also protect and look at the longevity of things that must happen. There's also insufficient stakeholder engagement, which means local community needs are often overlooked, resulting in resistance to investments. Additionally, a short-term focus can undermine long-term sustainability, eroding investor confidence. And one other thing is also sometimes we are also not paying attention. We ignore certain things, and then we also then blame that the engagement wasn't enough. And then finally, data deficiencies hinder informed decisions and decision-making, making it difficult to create effective strategies. I think Zimbabwe, getting data for anything is very difficult. You want to do evaluation, I have to call Dr. Juru to get comparables. You want anything, we don't have that data center where data is easily available. I'm not sure we're going to be talking of IT. We are struggling. I'm not sure what can be done for us to be able to get the relevant data. We can't even when you talk of market share in terms of certain industry, it's very difficult to calculate it because that data is not there. So these are some of the opportunities that are there. And then technology, I think we're going to be talking more of this. Technology as a key to smarter investments. Technology is essential for driving smarter investments in Africa. We have limited access to modern technology and infrastructure gaps, which are hindering the investment opportunities. And then there's a lack of technical skills among the workforce, often impedes the adoption of innovative practices. And then outdated regulations create uncertainty, while data privacy concerns deter investments in tech-driven solutions. I think in the real estate sector, our outdated regulations are also a hindrance, and it's taking long to just try and change one act over 7 years to try and change an act. So these are some of the challenges that we face. And then hurdles of investment in Zimbabwe, lack of technical skills and a strong among the workforce makes it difficult to implement advanced technologies, outdated local authority regulations, a focus on immediate gains over long-term sustainability also hinders investor confidence, which is one of the biggest challenges that we don't talk about, but it is there. And then there's lack of support. Startups and innovators limits the growth of local enterprises that could attract investments. There's no money for people that want to do business. If it's there, it's expensive. People cannot afford, the young ones, the young generation that are supposed to be starting up these things cannot afford the financing that is there. Or even if it is availed, the question is are the right people benefiting from that? And then failing to involve the local communities also results in projects that do not meet their needs, leading to resistance. And then we also have issues around the data security. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to leave you with the thinking that nyika inovaka nevana vayo. Maybe just think of what you've done. Thank you.
Another round of applause for Madam Patience. You know, they always say that if you want to apply anything, give it to a woman. So we gave her the opportunity, and she went through the entire presentation. I am sure you are all happy with what has been shared. But the major highlights that I picked from your presentation are that infrastructure enables the quality of life in every economy by creating jobs and enabling access to healthcare and education and connecting the markets. I think that was my home take. Then I also heard to say that motives, what really pushes us, what is really pushing us for sustainable development. You know, for us to achieve stable economic growth, conservation of natural resources, social progress and equity, protecting the environment, that should be enough to motivate us to move in the direction of sustainable development. Then, amongst other things, the incentives for sustainable development, I picked one key one. Access to innovative financing models. Everything needs money. And thank you, Madam Patience, and I would really appreciate your sharing insights into infrastructure development, sustainable infrastructure development. Next online will be the leaded one, Vengai Madzima, who will be sharing on the legal, regulatory, and policy frameworks for sustainable infrastructure development. Seeing that he's also an investment lawyer, I think I would also challenge him to talk about, or expect him to deal with the issues of financing issues. But I don't today, since we have professors, I don't know whether they're calling the learned one. I don't know.
No. I don't think I'm the learned one here. I don't know if you can get my presentation ready. Yes? Okay. They say that you're a product of your training. And as a lawyer, I was trained to be proactive. So I'm not a reactive lawyer. Even in the firm, I try to deal with matters before they occur, a preventative approach. So and that is the idea that I brought when I was preparing for this particular presentation. And to prove to you what I say is true, firstly, I would like to thank the previous panel for cancer. Although they scared us, I don't think I was able to do the presentation if we didn't have to go to lunch first. The statistics, as we were told, is that 2 or 3 of these gentlemen probably will get cancer. And so what I then did, because I'm a proactive lawyer, I had traditional food at lunch, in moderation. And then I also did my 5-year plan, which is going to be premised on a preventative option. I'm going to reduce my alcohol intake in the next 5 years. And the last one that I'm implementing immediately, is it possible to get this one? To get a microphone. The last one that I'm implementing immediately is that I will not be driving my wife anyway. And that was the advice from Dr. Matsika. That being said, we had Engineer Gurupira yesterday when he was discussing on sustainable infrastructure. He basically highlighted one point. He said that for Africa, it's a difficult conversation because we only contribute about 3%. And a part of me is inclined to agree with him. That being said, I've then structured my presentation so that we talk about unlocking finance, because in a room full of CEOs, it doesn't matter whose money it is or what you believe. If the money is available, we'll talk about the legal and things that we would need to achieve first so we can unlock green money or green finance. So that's what I'm going to talk about. My thinking on sustainable infrastructure development or sustainable, I know his ideas were premised on energy, do not really matter. It's a conversation about unlocking finance. That is what I was then instructed by Dr. Juru to deal with. So I will start with the general considerations in infrastructure. I don't think this is working. Okay, I'll start with the general legal expectations for smart infrastructure investments. This is what lawyers normally look at in a general infrastructure project, whether the investor is protected, whether the rights are enforceable, the local community and the environment, which is going to be our main focus today, is protected, if there are predictable timelines, and the process is transparent. Obviously, I will not comment on a lot of things. So, like I said, what I'm going to deal with mainly is then unlocking the legal considerations in unlocking infrastructure investment. My apologies if once in a while I give you my back. I'm not intending to, but it's because I'm using this particular screen, so I move with you. Yeah. Oh, I can see this one. Yeah. Ah, okay, thank you very much. I'll start with the due diligence process. International and regional or continental green finance, or finance in general, in their due diligence processes, they are now including the ESG component to unlock finance. And here we are talking about either green finance or get concessionary finance. I remember yesterday, Engineer Guru Peter spoke about the ferrochrome industry and say that they're giving a rate of 7.9 cents per kilowatt. And it was of interest to me because in about 2016 or 2017, I was the lead lawyer in negotiating for the ferrochrome company that has since closed with ZESA on this particular tariff. And our main base in our negotiations was the social impact of the tariff that ZESA was proposing. I think at that time, ZESA was proposing between 8 to 9 cents per kilowatt hour. And we managed to achieve 6 cents per kilowatt hour. We were probably still the highest charges for all ferrochrome producers. But I hear obviously ZESA has moved on. They've encouraged the ferrochrome producers to basically have solar farms. So it's a consideration. But we got a concessionary rate based on the S part of the ESGs. It was the social impact for the community in Kwekwe. At the time, most of the ferrochrome plants had actually closed, and we used that as our negotiating tool with the Ministry of Electricity at that time, and ZESA in particular. So ESGs are useful, especially when negotiating with public institutions and government, because of the social element in them. And so that's useful. I just thought it's something that I should mention. It was of interest. And then in sustainability frameworks, you can unlock finance in regional, continental, or global institutions, just using the sustainability frameworks. Obviously, the negotiations would include other aspects, but these institutions are mandated by law now to consider whether the project takes into cognizance ESGs, or ESs more than anything else. If you're doing PPPs in Zimbabwe, you get favorable selection. It's actually in our statute that they should consider what the social and environmental impact of the project when you're doing it. Then we talk about, obviously, the green money, their sustainability funds, the Green Climate Fund, the Africa Development Bank has to consider social and environmental protections, and then we have the Sustainable Energy Fund for Africa. Those are some of the funds available in dealing with ESG matters. International financial institutions deal with equator principles and international financial comparison performance standards. So I'll talk about equator principles in general, and I'll give a practical case. We had a case, it was also in the mining sector, where as part of our strategy, we wanted to stop certain funding as commercial lawyers. It was not personal to a certain institution or company, so that there were other processes that needed to happen. And what we did was we wrote to the financial institutions in England and South Africa that those particular companies, they are violating equator principles, and the bank is bound by those principles not to sponsor. So it's international law. The banks subscribe to the equator principles, which says companies have to be compliant in terms of their environment and social issues before money can be lent to them. So it's a serious issue. It's an issue that lawyers can use, even if some institutions do not want to subscribe. You can have your funding stopped by your competitors. It's unruly, it's probably unfair, but it's somebody gets paid. Obviously, I spoke about PPP agreement, and then I'll speak about other capital finance sources, China, for instance. So in terms of ESGs, or environmental and social issues, they are governed either by hard laws, that's your acts of parliament, the constitutions or regulations, or the soft laws, which is your policy and your guidelines. China takes a soft law approach to social issues, because obviously you can then say, I'll just look east where the money does not come with those particular conditions. So there are the guidelines of 2021, the Green Development Guidelines for overseas investment. They also subscribe to sustainable infrastructure development. We have the Ecological and Environmental Protection of Foreign Investment Projects guidelines, which are given to Chinese companies to get into projects where they also subscribe to sustainable infrastructure development. If you look at the Road and Belt Initiative, China actually sat down with a company in London, and they came up with a sustainable, the prescribed minimum or benchmarks for sustainable infrastructure development on that particular issue. So the whole world is moving in that direction. We cannot then say we'll just ignore it just for just. I'll talk about our legal position in Zimbabwe. Well, in Zimbabwe, first of all, I would want to say, when it comes to environmental laws, protection, and or protection for environmental and social impact, we have a mature law. It is comparative to most of the laws on the continent. Our only issue is our laws are fragmented. They are found in different areas. That is our issue. Not that the laws are not adequate. You find the laws on one side, they complement the equator issues. You find the laws on the other side, they even complement the continental guidelines. But they are found in different places, and it's difficult for an investor, more than anything else, to then be able to identify where. Of course, we have ZIDA that assists, but we still have the problem that these laws are everything. They are everywhere. That being said, issues of environment are found in our Constitution. Section 73 speaks about the right to an environment that is not harmful to health and well-being. And then section 13.3 talks about infrastructure, and the state's obligation to provide infrastructure. So These are justiciable rights, meaning you can take these rights to court. It's guaranteed by our constitution that you must have sustainable infrastructure development. Our statutory position is found in the Environmental Management Act, which creates EMA, which then regulates that particular law dealing with issues of EIAs, etc., before infrastructural projects can commence, or projects that potentially can be harmful to the environment. We have ZIDA, where it's fourth schedule, it gives provisions for environmental compliance and dispute resolution mechanisms. I saw Prazia earlier on, if you're disposing assets, obviously, or getting into projects that are state projects, you have to be compliant in your bid valuation with sustainable issues. We also have other laws that I did not mention because obviously they are fragmented. You got your Water Act dealing with sustainability issues, your Electricity Act, and other energy acts dealing with sustainability issues. These things are everywhere. And obviously in the interim, from a purely selfish point of view, I'm not advocating for the change because they keep us at work. From a policy perspective, NDS 2 is which will start obviously from 2026 to 2030, is almost synergized with the SDGs and is very strong on sustainable development. We have the National Climate Policy of 2016, which obviously is introducing, it should be the National Climate Management Act. It's still a bill at the moment, and eventually of 2025, it's the bill we eventually, I am assuming, going to hold all the laws in one place for our sustainable energy, sustainable infrastructure development and everything else. I'll talk on cross-border infrastructure investment, continental and global considerations, because our theme is on Africa and not just on Zimbabwe. The African Union Agenda 2063 embedded sustainability in infrastructure law and policy. We have PIDA, the Program for Infrastructure Development in Africa. It harmonizes standards for environmental compliance as part of financial considerations. We have the African Continental Free Trade Area. Article 3 is promotion of socio-economic development and was ratified in Zimbabwe in 2020. It also speaks on sustainability issues. On the international front, we have the Paris Agreement, which we are a signatory to, although America has come out of it. And from an observance point of view, the opposition so far, from a sustainable infrastructure perspective from America, has been confined to issues to do with energy. It hasn't transcended into other areas as we speak. Paris Agreement has makes financial flows consistent with climate resilient development. And then I'll do a comparative approach. I've selected 5 countries, ultimately, that are big on, at the moment, on sustainable infrastructure development. And as we speak, Rwanda and Kenya have a unified or a one reference point that deals with climate issues. And at the moment, why it matters, they are the 2 countries right now that are bidding to have some of the UN agencies that are relocating from Switzerland move to their locations, and they are using these codified documents as the carrot to say you can see that we are compliant with international law and our compliance is in one place. South Africa is big on sustainability. Somebody spoke about pension funds being other useful areas for sponsorship. Most of the sustainable infrastructure development in South Africa is sponsored by pension funds as opposed to outside money. And then Nigeria suffers more or less what we suffer from, where the law is developed but weak implementation models. Here, obviously, our EMA is under-resourced for what it should be doing, and we should have more allocation in terms of resources to be able to fully implement its obligations. Because from a policy and a law perspective, it is adequately, in my view, equipped. So I put down a few takeaways for CEOs, understanding that your job really is to think in 5-10 years, as we were told, and be able to proactively plan. I think the first takeaway is that access to concessional finance, for whatever reason, despite your personal views on the subject, has to do with having sustainable projects. And the second one is to future-proof projects or investment by incorporating NDS2, that is starting from January next year, having a look at the Climate Change Management Bill of 2025 that was put up, and seeing that the project is indeed compliant. And if you can also integrate continental international standards to widen the pool of finance, and also have access to green finance, and then ensure that as you do your DD for your project, besides its feasibility and profitability, you also look at ESG issues. Thank you very much, and have a good day.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you can't really add when a lawyer is spoken. You may not be having the adequate relevance to be confirming. But however, be that as it may, you may have noticed that on our program, I am actually a facilitator and I'm also presenting. So I think I'll be forgiven if I have to add on to what he has said. We are talking about Africa. And if you look at the world over $40 trillion are now invested in ESG-aligned and sustainable finance portfolios. The biggest challenge is in Africa. We receive less than 2% of that global pool. This quoted from Principles of Responsible Investment, 2023. Now, the problem isn't that our investors have no interest in Africa. Is that many of our projects simply don't meet sustainability, transparency, and governance thresholds that today's capital requires. In this new financial landscape, money no longer chases only profit. It chases purpose and proof. Sustainability has become the language of trust in global finance, and where trust is absent, capital hesitates. So the issue before us now is, how do we find money? It's not about how do we find money, but how do we align our projects and policies to qualify for it? You will notice that at global level, we have the Green Climate Funds, founded in 2010 as part of the UNFCCC framework, which helps developing countries mitigate and adapt climate change, aiming for 50-50 balance between mitigation and adaptation investments. And the disbursements are split as follows: 74% grant, 16% loans, and 10% equity. Now, there is money that we are looking for, the money that we want. But the question is, our projects, are they meeting the required criteria? You know, beyond that, beyond the Green Climate Fund, you have the Africa 50 Infrastructure Acceleration Fund, Africa Renewable Energy Fund. The ADB Climate Action Initiative. We have in South Africa the Infrastructure Fund, which is a partnership between the National Treasury, the Development Bank of South Africa, and the Infrastructure South Africa, ISA. We also have infinite access, open access to private equity funds and private capital mobilization, where people are passionate about the environment. And that speaks to us as we embark on our projects to shift towards aspects to do with sustainability for us to, in the long run, to take care of our great-grandkids. Without taking much of your time, I've been told that we have 10 minutes. Unfortunately, I'm going to punish my other two facilitators. I'll ask you to present from there. If it's okay with you, then the mic should be working.
Depends with Dr. Ngirebona, whether she allows me to present when I'm seated.
Next will be our veteran construction expert, Mr. Martin Chingaira, who will share with us readiness to handle sustainable infrastructure development in Zimbabwe. Round of applause for...
Thank you very much, facilitator. First and foremost, I wanted just to educate you in terms of construction industry before I go into infrastructure. I think in our national budget, time and again, we are told that the construction industry is the barometer of any economy. What does that mean? It means when construction industry is in action, most of the manufacturers will be also active. These manufacturers include the ones who manufacture sand, that is river sand, pit sand, three-quarter stones, bricks, cement, door frames, window frames, timber, roof tiles, electrical, carpeting, air cons, painting, and even manufacturers of food, because people will be in need of food while they are working. So it means once we are working, everyone is active. And that is to say the economy is also ticking. That's number one. Coming to the issue of our theme, where we are talking about the implementation imperative. This brings us to the critical component, implementation. I can attest that even the best funded projects fail without local capacity and strict quality control. What we are saying here, there is no way where we can be doing well as an industry as long as we are not using local products into our projects, as well as making sure that we observe quality. Then we come to the issue of smart investment must be grounded in local content and skill development. Standardization. We need Pan-African harmonization of green building codes and certification systems, reducing ambiguity for international investors and ensuring adherence to quality. I think you are now aware in terms of our road from Beitbridge to Harare, where SADC standards are 12.5 meters width. And if we are driving from Harare to Beitbridge, you can see a difference from Plumtree to Mutare. These standards are very important, where at the end of the day, we are doing it as Africa, where we are now using SADC standards, whereby everyone who is driving in SADC countries will actually have one standard. At the end of the day, it's something which we say is user-friendly. You cannot actually see a sign in South Africa which you cannot interpret in Zimbabwe. So that is important for us. Then we come to the issue of skills gap. Infrastructure funds must budget for and mandate local training and professional upskilling. This ensures the structures that maintain correctly, retaining value on the continent. Currently, as a sector, we are collaborating with universities where research and development is now key for us to make sure we adopt to innovation. The higher institutions like the universities, I think you are now going to see us more to your campuses coming to look for research and development so that we upskill ourselves in the construction industry. Maximizing spillover, when we mandate local procurement and of sustainable materials and local labor, the foreign capital investment yields maximum downstream economic growth and job creation, making the investment politically, economically, and socially sustainable. Call to action, partnership for prosperity. I urge my colleagues in this room to adopt a Pan-African Resilient Index. Let's standardize how we measure the climate readiness and economic resilience of every major project across the continent. De-risking through localization. Governments and financing partners must work with industry bodies like Construction Industry Federation of Zimbabwe. We are also a member of African Federation for Construction Contractors headquartered in Egypt, where 47 countries are members. And this is where now we are doing things as a continent than just Zimbabwe without following what others are doing. Champion innovative finance. Let us aggressively explore blended finance and risk-sharing instruments that make long tenure, sustainable projects more attractive to private capital. Ladies and gentlemen, I think because of time, I would want actually to stop here for the meantime. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is just finished. Simpson, can you please share with us your experiences in implementing projects?
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Juru, and good afternoon, everybody. I want to share our experiences as Sunway City. Just to give you a brief background about Sunway City, it is a proper developer. It is also a special economic zone, having been licensed in 2019. And since then, we've managed to attract over 45 investors who are currently operating within Sunway City. In terms of sustainability, as Sunway City, what we've done is that there is an ongoing alignment of our development vision with global sustainability frameworks like your ESG, your Vision 2030, especially the focus on sustainable industrialization and infrastructure modernization. The second thing that we've also done as Sunway City, we've adopted a green infrastructure master plan. And according to this master plan, 50% of our power needs as Sunway City is supposed to come from renewable resources. To that end, we've set aside land for a solar park, a 100 megawatt solar project that we intend to do within Sunway City. We have also adopted green building structures for our upcoming low-cost housing project. However, our journey in terms of embedding sustainability in our infrastructure development story has not been without challenges. I'm just going to highlight some of the challenges that we have faced as Sunway City. The first challenge is I'm just going to take maybe 2 minutes quickly. The first challenge is the limited access to long-term sustainable financing. Most sustainability-oriented infrastructure projects, they require long-term patient capital. And currently in Zimbabwe, there is poverty in terms of patient capital. This constrains investment in renewable energy, water recycling. The second thing issues to do with the policy and the regulatory inconsistencies, issues to do with the infrastructure servicing and utility constraints. We are heavily reliant on the external utility providers, your ZESA, your ZINWA, your City of Harare, which are currently facing capacity and maintenance challenges. We also have a weak institutional and technical capacity. We also have limited awareness and buy-in among stakeholders, local investors and developers. They still view sustainability as an added cost rather than a long-term value driver. I think I had more to share, but I think for the sake of time, I will hand over to the facilitator.
Thank you very much. My team has done justice. They've done their best under the difficult circumstances of getting hour on a subject that possibly needs a whole week to discuss. You know, sustainability is a big issue. It is the future, and it can't be ignored. But however, do we have any 2-3 questions?
Unfortunately,
Okay, 1.5 questions.
One. One.
Yeah. You can go ahead.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I'm actually one in person. I just would want to get your views, gentlemen and lady, in terms of sustainability. Through research, it is now being preferred that we can actually move out of tarred roads and then build our roads through cement and perhaps quarry stones, mix them, and you get a very good road instead of tar. That's number one, and I would want to get your view there. The other one, which is quite conflicting again, we have heard in the morning in terms of a billion bricks. I just wanted to get your view in terms of land degradation. What's happening? Because we are digging soil and so forth, clay. After that, it will be miserable to see the land being degraded. But however, in other countries, they use timber and so on to build houses. But in our country, perhaps trees are nowhere to be found, bushes that are no longer there. What's your view in terms of these issues, 2 critical issues that I have posted to you? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe it's the only question in the House. Right, I will do my best to answer you. First, all your questions, they deserve one answer, which is us setting the new green building standards. You've talked about the roads, and what do our standards say? Right now, if we talk about the model building bylaws, they were last changed in 1976? And it's what is currently guiding us. So for us to transition to accept sustainability or to live in a new world order of sustainability and ESG, we have to revisit our building codes. That will address both issues, the buildings and the roads. Now, coming to the environmental degradation that happens as a result of us getting the billion bricks. Even in accounting standards, there's a clause that talks about reclamation, where it's a question of people not doing what they're supposed to do. Yes, you have built, and if you look at, do we have anyone from EMA? Part of the EMA fees is to actually help solve the challenge that has been created. When people pay their penalties, that money is supposed to be going back to the environment. So as we progress, we should be realigning ourselves as a nation to really know that, yes, we have standards that we're supposed to follow. We, each and every one of us, have a responsibility to do good to the environment without us leaving it to anyone's mercy. But anyway, the long and short of it, we need to adopt new green building standards that will address all our concerns. Right now, we do not have, and I can share with you that there are efforts that are being made to progress in that direction.